Jordan had always loved traveling. He liked meeting new people, tasting different foods, and learning about other cultures. This time, he had chosen a quiet town in another country for a short vacation. He was alone, but that never bothered him. Jordan believed that kindness could be found anywhere. It was a sunny afternoon when he walked into the famous local restaurant, the Red Maple. The restaurant looked nice from the outside, with wooden tables, flower pots, and a soft jazz song playing in the background. Jordan smiled as he entered. The place was half full. Families laughed, couples shared meals, and waiters moved around, carrying plates and drinks. A server at the front, wearing a neat white shirt and black vest, noticed Jordan. He looked like the head server. Jordan smiled politely and said, "Hi, table for one, please." The server, whose name tag said Mark, didn't smile back. Instead, Mark raised one eyebrow and said in a cold voice, "Just one." Jordan nodded. "Yes." Mark didn't reply. He turned around without a word and walked toward an empty table in the corner. Jordan followed him, confused. Mark dropped the menu on the table without even looking at him. "Here." Jordan sat down slowly. He looked around. Other servers were smiling, helping customers with care. But here he was, sitting alone, feeling like he had done something wrong. Jordan brushed it off. Maybe he's just having a bad day, he thought. But it didn't stop there. When Mark came back to take his order, he didn't say hello or "Are you ready?" Instead, he said, "What do you want?" as if Jordan was a problem. Jordan kept his calm. "I'll take the grilled chicken with lemon rice, please, and a glass of water." Mark wrote it down without a word and walked away. Jordan sat in silence. The air around him felt strange now. A family sitting nearby glanced in his direction. One of the children looked at him curiously, but the parents quickly looked away. A few minutes later, Mark returned with a glass of water, but as he placed it on the table, his hand slipped. The glass tipped over, and water spilled all over the table and Jordan's lap. "Oh," Mark said, almost smiling. "Oops." Jordan quickly stood up, trying to dry his pants with a napkin. The water was cold, and his seat was wet now. "I'm really sorry," Jordan said politely. "But can I please get a dry napkin or move to another table?" Mark crossed his arms. "If you can't handle a little water, maybe you shouldn't eat out." Jordan froze. His heart started beating faster. Did he just say that? In front of everyone. He looked around. No one said anything. A few people looked uncomfortable, but they quickly turned their heads. Just then, a soft voice behind him said, "Excuse me, sir, I'll get you a clean napkin." It was a young waitress, maybe in her early 20s. She had kind eyes and a gentle smile. She rushed to bring him fresh napkins and helped him clean the mess. Jordan thanked her. "You're very kind." She nodded but didn't say anything else. Her eyes quickly looked around, as if making sure no one saw her helping. Jordan sat back down, a little shaken but trying to stay calm. 15 minutes passed. No food came. Other customers, who arrived after Jordan, were already eating. Jordan looked toward the kitchen. He could see Mark laughing and talking to another server. When their eyes met, Mark just smirked and walked away. Something wasn't right. Then the young waitress returned. She placed a folded napkin next to Jordan and whispered, "Please read this when no one is watching." She left quickly, not even looking at him. Jordan waited for a moment. Then, carefully, he opened the napkin. Inside, a small note read, "You're not alone. Please don't leave. Some of us see what's happening." Jordan stared at the words. His hands tightened around the paper. He wasn't imagining things. This wasn't just rudeness. This was something deeper, something darker. He looked around again, and for the first time, he noticed a man sitting alone at another table, recording something with his phone, holding it low but pointed in Mark's direction. Jordan took a deep breath. He wasn't the only one watching anymore. Jordan sat quietly at the corner table, still holding the small note in his hand. "You're not alone. Please don't leave. Some of us see what's happening." He folded the note and slipped it into his pocket. His thoughts were spinning. He looked toward the kitchen again. Mark was laughing with another server, acting like nothing had happened. But now, Jordan wasn't just confused. He was watching carefully. Across the room, the man with the phone was still recording. He wasn't trying to hide it anymore. He held the phone steady, pointed toward Mark and Jordan's table. His face was calm, but his eyes were serious. Jordan gave him a small nod. The man nodded back. Just then, the young waitress returned to Jordan's table. She placed a glass of water, this time carefully, and said softly, "Your food is coming soon." Jordan smiled a little. "Thanks for the note." She didn't answer, but her eyes said everything. Then she turned and walked away. As Jordan waited, he noticed something else. A few tables away, an older couple was staring at him. The woman leaned toward her husband and whispered something. The man looked at Jordan and shook his head slowly. Their expressions weren't angry, but they looked concerned. Are they feeling sorry for me? Jordan wondered. Or are they scared too? Suddenly, Mark came back with a plate in his hand. Without saying anything, he dropped the plate on Jordan's table. The plate hit the edge of the table hard, almost tipping over. The chicken was dry. The rice was cold. Jordan looked up. "This doesn't seem fresh," he said calmly. Mark crossed his arms. "It's the same food everyone else is eating. If you don't like it, you can leave." The room got quiet for a second. People were starting to notice now. Jordan looked around. Most customers quickly looked away, pretending not to see. Some stared down at their plates. No one said anything. No one, except the man with the phone. He stood up slowly and walked toward Jordan. "Excuse me," the man said. He was tall, with glasses and a quiet voice. "I've been sitting here for a while. I saw everything." Mark rolled his eyes. "Mind your business." The man ignored him. He looked at Jordan and said, "You didn't do anything wrong. I've recorded everything. If you need this later, I'll send it to you." Jordan was surprised. "Thank you," he said. Mark laughed coldly. "A phone video? Really? That's not going to change anything." But Jordan didn't laugh. Neither did the man. The young waitress returned again, standing near them. "Actually," she said, looking at Mark, "he's not the only one who's tired of your games." Mark turned red. "What did you just say?" The waitress stepped back. "Nothing," she whispered, suddenly afraid. Mark walked toward her. "Watch your mouth." But just then, the manager of the restaurant came out of the back room. His name tag said Manager David. He looked around, confused by the tension. "What's going on here?" David asked. Mark quickly spoke up. "Nothing serious, just a customer who doesn't like his food." Jordan opened his mouth to speak, but before he could, the young waitress stepped forward. "That's not true," she said clearly. "He was treated badly from the moment he walked in. You saw it, too, David. You were watching from behind the bar." David froze. He looked uncomfortable. Let's not do this now." "Why not?" the man with the phone asked. "You run this place, right? You let this happen." The restaurant grew quiet again. The older couple stood up. The woman said loudly, "We've been coming here for years. But after what we saw today, we won't be back." Her husband nodded. "That server should be ashamed." David looked around. More people were whispering. A few were even recording now. Mark turned to David. "Are you going to believe them? Or your own staff?" David looked scared. "Let's talk in the back." But Jordan stood up now. He didn't yell. He didn't cry. He just said clearly, "I came here for a meal, not to be treated like trash. You can fire Mark or protect him. That's your choice. But the world will see this." He looked at the man with the phone. "Send me the video." The man nodded. "Already done." As Jordan turned to leave, The young waitress followed him outside. "Please don't give up," she said softly. "Some of us want to help. We just didn't know how." Jordan nodded. "Thank you for being brave." As he stepped into the sunlight, Jordan felt something shift. The hurt was still there, but now it came with purpose. Behind him, the restaurant buzzed with whispers, shame, and fear. But outside, Jordan had allies and a video. Back inside the Red Maple, the air had changed. No one was laughing now. The video man had left. The kind waitress had spoken up. And Jordan, the calm, polite tourist, had walked out with dignity. But the damage stayed behind. Inside the kitchen, voices grew louder. Plates clanked. Staff whispered in corners. And the head server, Mark, stood with crossed arms, pretending nothing was wrong. In the back office, manager David was sweating. He closed the door and leaned against it. The walls felt tighter. He looked at the security screen showing the dining area. He had seen it all. He had watched Mark mistreat Jordan from the start, but David had done nothing. Why? Because Mark had worked there for 5 years, because he was loud, confident, and friends with the restaurant's owner, because trouble always got ignored until it went public. David picked up his phone. The screen flashed with notifications. New message. Is this your staff? Tag alert. Red Maple Restaurant mentioned in a video. Comments. Disgusting behavior. We stand with Jordan. Boycott this place. He stared at the phone in silence. His hands began to shake. Meanwhile, in the staff hallway, the young waitress, her name was Emily, stood near the sink, whispering to another server named Louis. "I couldn't stay quiet," she said. "You saw what happened." Louis nodded. "I did. We all did." "Then why didn't you say anything?" she asked. Louis looked down. "Because Mark makes people afraid. He yells. He blames. Last month he made Sarah cry in the storage room. Remember her?" Emily nodded. "She quit the same day." Louis sighed. "You were brave. But now, they might fire you." "I don't care anymore," Emily said. "I didn't come here to serve food and stay silent while people are treated like dirt." Just then, the kitchen door opened. Mark stepped in, his face red with anger. "You think you're some kind of hero," he growled at Emily. She stood tall. "No, I just told the truth." Mark pointed at her. "You're done here." But before he could say more, David entered. "Mark," David said loudly, "my office." "Now." Mark looked shocked. "Me? What about her?" David's voice was sharp. "Now." The staff froze as Mark followed David to the back. Behind closed doors, the tension exploded. "You embarrassed the restaurant," David snapped. "We're trending for all the wrong reasons." Mark scoffed. "So what? One unhappy customer. Who cares?" David slammed the desk. "It's not just one customer. It's racism. On video. Online. Spreading everywhere." Mark rolled his eyes. "That guy overreacted." "No," David said, pointing his finger. "You made him feel like less than human. And now we all pay for it." Mark's smile faded. "What are you going to do?" "Fire me." David hesitated. Mark leaned closer. "The owner likes me. You fire me, you might be next." David looked away. He wanted to fire Mark, but fear was still louder than truth. Hours passed. The restaurant grew quieter. A few customers left reviews online. Others didn't come in at all. News was spreading fast. Outside, Jordan sat in a small cafe across the street. His clothes were dry now, but his heart still felt heavy. The video had already reached thousands of views. He scrolled through the comments. Unbelievable. He handled it with such grace. More people like that waitress, fewer like that server. Name the place. We'll never eat there again. Jordan closed his phone and took a deep breath. He didn't want revenge. He wanted change. A soft ding came from his phone. It was a message from Emily. Emily. Hi. I'm the waitress from earlier. I just wanted to say sorry again. And thank you for not walking away. Jordan replied. Jordan, you didn't stay silent. That means a lot. Another message popped up, this time from Louis. Louis, we're talking in the kitchen now. People are finally speaking up. Thank you. Jordan smiled, just a little. Sometimes change starts with one voice. Sometimes one kind act becomes a ripple. Back at the Red Maple, something had shifted. In the kitchen, Emily and Louis stood with two other staff members. One of them, an older dishwasher named Tom, said, "We should write a letter to the owner." As a team. Emily nodded. If we stand together, they can't ignore it. The quiet whispers were growing stronger. And Mark. For the first time, he looked nervous. The next morning, the Red Maple felt heavy with silence. The sunlight touched the red booths. The kitchen smelled like fresh onions and coffee. But no one was smiling. No one joked around. It felt like the restaurant was holding its breath. Emily entered first, her shoulders square, her face calm but serious. Louis followed. Then Tom, the older dishwasher. Then Mia, a hostess who had worked there for 3 years without ever speaking up. Each of them carried something different, but in their hands, they all held the same paper. A letter. Typed, printed, signed. They had stayed late the night before, meeting in secret at Louis's apartment. They had written every word together, reading and rewriting it until every sentence felt right. It was honest. It was brave. It was powerful. It began. To the owner of the Red Maple. We, the staff members listed below, wish to report serious misconduct by one of your employees. Mark, last name, a senior server at your restaurant. On date, he publicly and repeatedly discriminated against a customer based on the color of his skin. This was witnessed by multiple guests and captured on video. The video is now circulating online, bringing shame to our restaurant and harm to its reputation. We can no longer stay silent. This behavior is not new. It has happened before. But this time, the world saw it. We believe in fairness. We believe every person, customer, or coworker deserves respect, no matter their race or background. Mark has broken that trust. We respectfully ask for immediate action. If not, we will have no choice but to step away from our jobs until change is made. Sincerely, Emily. Louis. Tom. Nia. By 10 a.m., the letter was placed on the manager's desk. David read it once, then again. His face turned pale. He stood up, walked to the window, and stared out at the street. His thoughts raced. What would the owner say? Would he lose his job? Could he ignore this? But deep down, something stronger was growing inside him. Courage. For the first time in a long time, David wanted to do the right thing, not the easy thing. He picked up his phone and called the owner. "Sir," he said, "we need to talk." Across town, Jordan was sitting in a quiet park. He watched a little girl feed ducks while her mother smiled nearby. His heart still felt heavy, but his phone kept buzzing. The video had now hit 1 million views. People were tagging news channels. Civil rights groups had started sharing it. One famous actor tweeted, "This is why we speak up. Racism isn't just violence. It's in how we're treated. Salute to the man who kept his cool. #Justice for Jordan." Jordan wasn't looking for fame. But maybe this attention could help others. Maybe it could wake up a few hearts. His phone buzzed again. A message. "Emily, we gave the owner the letter today. We're ready to walk out if they don't act." Jordan, "I'm proud of you all. That takes real strength." Emily replied with a photo. The staff standing together in front of the restaurant. No smiles, just strength. Jordan smiled quietly to himself. Back at the Red Maple, David sat nervously in the office while Mark paced outside. The owner had called back. He had seen the video. "This is a PR nightmare," the owner said. "Customers are canceling reservations. We've been tagged in over 2,000 posts." David replied firmly, "Sir, it's not just a PR problem. It's a human problem. This man humiliated a guest because of his skin color. It has to stop." The owner paused, then sighed. "You're right. Handle it. I'll back you up." David exhaled in relief. For once, he had support. He stood up, walked to the dining area, and called Mark into the office. Mark strolled in like nothing was wrong. But David didn't hesitate. "You're being terminated. Effective immediately." Mark froze. "What? You were warned before. This time it's public. It's documented. And it's done." Mark's voice cracked. "You're siding with them." "No," David said. "I'm siding with what's right." Mark stormed out, slamming the door. The sound echoed through the restaurant. Minutes later, David returned to the front, where Emily and the others stood in a quiet group. "It's done," he said simply. "He's gone." Emily looked shocked. "Really?" David nodded. "Your letter helped. Your voices made a difference." Tom let out a breath he'd been holding for days. Louis gave a small fist bump. Maya wiped away a quiet tear. For the first time in a long time, the red maple felt like it could heal. That afternoon, David made a post from the restaurant's official page. "We at the Red Maple sincerely apologize for the treatment shown in the viral video. We have taken immediate action and terminated the employee responsible. This behavior does not reflect our values. We are reviewing training and hiring practices to prevent this from ever happening again. To Jordan, and to anyone who has ever felt unseen, we see you, we hear you, and we will do better." The post got thousands of shares, and just as many supportive comments. And while the damage could not be undone, something stronger had started to grow. Change. The next morning, Jordan's phone was full of messages. His name was trending. His face, calm, hurt, but strong, was everywhere. The video had now passed 3.5 million views. Strangers were tagging him, sharing his story, writing kind messages. Some people sent their own stories of facing racism in restaurants, hotels, stores, even schools. Jordan read each one slowly. Every word touched his heart. But what surprised him most was the message from the Red Maple. A public apology. Clear, honest, and signed by the restaurant itself. To Jordan, "We failed you. What happened in our restaurant was wrong. No one deserves to be treated like that. We've let go of the server responsible, and we are changing our training, our leadership, and our hearts. We hope you'll give us a chance to make this right." It wasn't just a short post. It was a full statement, shared across all their pages, with a photo of the staff, this time not just standing, but smiling with pride. The internet noticed. Thousands of people liked and shared the post. People said, "This is how you take responsibility. Respect to the workers who stood up." Jordan handled it with dignity. We can all learn something from him. One famous civil rights leader reposted it and wrote, "This is more than a mistake. This is a turning point. Respect to Jordan, and respect to those who apologized and took action." Later that day, Jordan sat down to record a video. He wanted to speak directly to the people. His message was calm and kind. "Hello, everyone. First of all, thank you. The support I've received is more than I could imagine. When I walked into that restaurant, I just wanted a meal. I didn't expect to walk out with the whole world watching. But maybe this needed to happen, not just for me, but for everyone who's ever stayed silent because they were scared. I've seen the Red Maple's apology, and I've spoken to a few of the workers who were brave enough to write that letter. To them, I say thank you. We can't erase the past, but we can choose the future. And I believe in change. Real change." That video reached over 5 million views in 2 days. It was honest, real, People didn't just hear Jordan's words, they felt them. Meanwhile, back at the restaurant, something strange was happening. People started showing up. First, a small group of regulars walked in and said, "We saw what you did. We're proud of you." Then came a group of college students, then a local teacher, then a man in a wheelchair who said, "I've been treated like I didn't matter in places like this. But today, I feel seen." The restaurant, once quiet and nearly empty, was now full again. But it wasn't just about food anymore. It was about hope. David, the manager, looked around and smiled. He walked over to Emily and said, "You started this." Emily shook her head. "No, Jordan did." Louise leaned in. "Maybe we all did, together." That evening, David made one more phone call. He called Jordan directly. "Jordan," he said, "I know we can't erase what happened, but we would be honored if you gave us another chance. Would you be willing to come back for one more meal, this time as our guest?" There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Jordan said softly, "Let me think about it." That night, Jordan stood in front of the Red Maple, unsure of what he would do. He looked at the glass doors. He remembered the shame he felt walking out that day. Eyes on him, phone in his hand, heartbroken. But now, things were different. He took a deep breath and stepped inside. The bell above the door chimed. Heads turned. A few people clapped. One woman even had tears in her eyes. Emily walked up with a warm smile and said, "Table for one." Jordan smiled back. "No," he said, glancing around at the crowd. "Table for everyone." Everyone laughed. The same booth was ready for him. But this time, it wasn't cold or awkward. It was filled with light and warmth. Louis brought him his meal. David came to shake his hand. Even Mia, usually shy, whispered, "We're so glad you're here." And for the first time, the walls of the Red Maple didn't just hold tables and chairs. They held a story, a hard one, but a story of truth, courage, and change. A week after Jordan returned to the Red Maple, something unexpected happened. He got an email. Subject: URGENT, interview request from Morning World News. The message was short but clear. "Jordan, we would love to feature your story on our national show this Friday. Your video inspired millions. We believe your voice can help bring real change." Jordan stared at the screen, stunned. He had never been on national TV. He was just a regular guy who wanted a peaceful dinner while traveling. But now, people were calling him a leader, a symbol of quiet strength. He replied, "Yes, I'll do it." On Friday morning, Jordan sat in the bright studio lights. The host, a kind woman named Vanessa, smiled at him warmly. "Jordan," she began, "you walked into a restaurant one night and came out with a movement behind you. How do you feel about that?" Jordan smiled softly. "I didn't plan it," he said, "but I knew something wasn't right, and I just couldn't stay silent." Vanessa leaned forward. "You showed strength, but you also showed forgiveness. Why?" Jordan paused, thinking. "Because anger only burns you from the inside. But truth lights the way for others." The studio went quiet. Even the cameraman nodded in agreement. Then Vanessa surprised him. She looked off camera and said, "We have someone who wants to say something to you." The screen behind them lit up, and there was Emily, Liv from the Red Maple. Behind her stood David, Louis, and the whole team. Jordan's eyes widened. Emily spoke clearly. "Jordan, we're watching you live here at the restaurant. We want to say again, we are sorry, and thank you. Because of you, we are not just a better restaurant. We are better people." David stepped forward. "Jordan, would you accept a small gift from all of us?" He held up a large plaque. It read, "To Jordan, for choosing courage over silence and kindness over hate. You reminded us who we are meant to be." Vanessa turned to Jordan. "You didn't just change a restaurant. You changed how people talk about race, kindness, and standing up. Jordan blinked back emotion. "I didn't want attention," he said quietly. "But maybe this happened for a reason." After the show aired, something huge happened. Schools started using Jordan's story in classrooms. Teachers played the video and asked students, "What would you do if you saw someone treated unfairly?" One child wrote, "I would speak up like Jordan, even if I'm scared." Police departments added his story to anti-bias training. One officer wrote online, "This is what real leadership looks like: calm, brave, human." Even a famous movie director tweeted, "Jordan's story needs to be a film. It's raw, powerful, and real." Jordan's inbox exploded. Publishers wanted him to write a book. Podcast hosts wanted to interview him. Even nonprofit groups asked him to speak at events. But Jordan didn't care about fame. What he cared about was the change. He replied to only one message that night, from a quiet little school in a small town. The teacher wrote, "Jordan, our students are mostly kids of color. Some felt like they didn't matter. After seeing your story, they walked taller." Jordan packed a bag and booked a flight. At the school, he stood before a room of kids, all eyes wide. He didn't speak like a celebrity. He spoke like a friend. "I want you to know," he told them, "you matter. Your voice matters. If someone treats you unfairly, speak up. Not with hate, but with truth. People will listen. And even if they don't, you will know you did the right thing." A small girl raised her hand and asked, "Were you scared when it happened?" Jordan smiled gently. "Yes, very. But courage isn't being fearless. It's doing the right thing, even when you are afraid." The class clapped. Some even hugged him after. One boy whispered, "You're my hero." Jordan felt tears rise, but this time they were not from pain. They were from hope. Back at his hotel, Jordan looked at the sky from his window. He thought about the moment when a simple dinner turned into something big. He remembered the anger. He remembered the silence. But most of all, he remembered the kindness that followed. Not just from strangers online, but from people who changed their hearts. From a restaurant that owned its mistake. From children who now believed they could speak up. He didn't plan any of it. But maybe, just maybe, the world had needed this story. Months passed since Jordan's quiet dinner turned into a national moment. He had returned home. Life had slowed down again. No more cameras. No more interviews. Just peace. But something had changed, not just for Jordan, but across the country. People still messaged him. Some sent letters. Some sent drawings from kids who wrote, "Thank you for teaching me to be brave." One day, Jordan walked into his local library. To his surprise, the librarian greeted him with a wide smile. "We just added a new book to our inspiration section," she said. She pointed to a display table. There it was. One table, one truth. Jordan's story. A small book. Simple cover, but powerful. Jordan picked it up and flipped through the pages. Inside were photos of the red maple, quotes from people all over the country, and even stories from waiters, teachers, and students who said they learned something deep from what happened. He stood there, speechless. He hadn't written the book, but someone had taken his story and made it into a message for everyone. A message about respect, courage, and hope. Meanwhile, the Red Maple was no longer just a restaurant. It had become a symbol. People traveled from different cities just to eat there. Not for the food, but for what it stood for now. The owners had created a program called Serve with Honor, a free training for restaurant staff to learn about equality, respect, and customer care. They even hired Emily full-time to lead the program. Louis was now a manager. David, the waiter who had stepped forward that night, was training others. And the new staff. Diverse, friendly, strong. They even placed a sign outside the door. "This is a safe place. For everyone. Always." Then one day, something unexpected happened. Jordan received an official letter from the president's office. He read it twice to believe it. Mr. Jordan, your quiet strength made a loud impact. We invite you to speak at the annual National Unity Summit this fall. Your presence would remind us that small moments, when met with courage, can lead to great change. Jordan stared at the letter in disbelief. Him, speaking at the National Summit. He called his mom. She cried over the phone. You always had a good heart, she said. I'm just glad the world saw it too. At the summit, thousands of people sat in the grand hall. Leaders, students, families, even celebrities, all waiting to hear one man's story. Jordan stepped up to the podium. He wore a simple suit, no fancy jewelry, no dramatic entrance, just him and his truth. He looked across the crowd and said, I didn't want to make a scene that night. I just wanted to eat dinner in peace. But what happened to me happens to many, and silence has allowed it for too long. The hall was quiet. He continued, I didn't fight back with anger. I didn't yell. I told the truth, and the truth did the rest. I believe change starts not in big speeches, but in small moments. Moments when we decide, will I do nothing, or will I do what's right? People in the crowd nodded, some with tears in their eyes. He ended his speech simply. Everyone deserves to feel safe, to feel seen. If my story helped even one person believe that, then I did the right thing. The entire hall stood and clapped. Some people didn't just clap. They wept. After that day, Jordan continued to travel, not for fame, but to help. He visited high schools. He sat in community centers. He joined peaceful talks between police and citizens. He even helped write a simple guidebook titled, Speak with Truth, Act with Kindness. His story appeared in school curriculums across the country. Some called him a hero, but he always said the same thing. I'm just a guy who told the truth when it mattered. Back at home, Jordan kept one thing on his desk. It wasn't an award. It wasn't the president's letter. It was the original bill from the Red Maple, with the handwritten apology on the back, signed by the entire staff. It reminded him where it all began. Not with fame, not with cameras, not with speeches, but with one dinner, one mistake, and one choice to do what was right.